Good afternoon, children. So let us move towards the further point of the class, that is the Gulamgiri. You have seen all the social reform movements that started in order to encourage the equality between the men and women. And another one, what we can say, the greatest evil of our country was the Gulamgiri. One of the most vocal amongst the low caste leaders was Jyotirao Phule. Born in 1827, he studied in schools set up by Christian missionaries. On growing up, he developed his own ideas about the injustices of caste society. So what happened on growing up? Jyotirao Phule, born in the year 1827. He was born in the year 1827. He was a low caste leader and he studied in the schools set up by what? By the Christian missionaries, right? On growing up, he developed his own new ideas about what? About the injustices of the caste society, about the inequality which were there in the caste society. He set out to attack the Brahmins, claim that they were the superior to others since they were Aryans. So here the Brahman Samaja, what they started telling to other caste people, that we are the superior people than other castes. You are all inferior people, and whereas we are the superior people and we are called as the Aryans. Phule argued that Aryans were foreigners who came from outside the subcontinent and defeated and subjugated the two children of the country. So Jyotirao Phule, he says that the Aryans means, here Aryans means the foreigners or the person who have come from the outside the subcontinent or from the outside the country, who have defeated and killed the king and who had subjugated, means who has made the slaves of the true children of the country. So those people we are going to call them as the Aryans. Those who had lived here from before coming of the Aryans, means before coming of the Aryans, the true people, means the real citizens of the country were living. As the Aryans established their dominance, they began looking at the defeated population as inferior, as low caste people. So when Aryans, I have already told you in the 9th class, the Germans were thinking that they were the Aryans, pure blood people, right? Superior people in the world. The Germans were thinking that we are the superior people in the world and others are the inferior people, right? Likewise, here what had happened here, Jyotirao Phule was telling that Aryans means it established the dominance after ruling the particular territory, after defeating the particular king, what they came to the decision that they were thinking the citizens of the original country or the citizens of the country as the inferior people, as the low caste people. According to Phule, the upper caste had no right to their land and power. So according to the Jyotirao Phule, he said that they have no right on the land or on the power because they are the foreigners. Aryans are the foreigners or the outsiders, so they don't have a right on our land or on the power to rule the people. In reality, the land belonged to indigenous people, the so-called the low caste. So here Jyotirao Phule is telling that the land belongs to whom? That belongs to the low caste people, because they are the original people who were there in the country, who are born in that country and who has really worked in that land. Phule claimed that before Aryan rule there existed a golden age when warrior peasants tilled the land and ruled the Maratha countryside in just fair ways. So what happened? The Phule claimed that before Aryan rule, what existed? There existed a golden age. There was a golden age when warrior peasants means the farmers, they used to till the land and they ruled the Maratha countryside in just and fair ways. Just and fair ways means in the correct ways they were ruling the country. He proposed that Shudras, laboring caste, and Ati Shudras, untouchables, should unite to challenge the caste discrimination. Because in this low caste people only they had made two castes, that is the Shudras, laboring caste, and another one was Ati Shudras, they were called as the untouchables. So what they should do, they should unite among themselves, and what they should start fighting against, they should start challenging what? Caste discrimination in the country. The Satya Shodhaka Samaja, an association fully founded, propagated caste equality. So what was that? Satya Shodhaka Samaja, and it was an association who founded it, fully founded it, and he propagated what? Caste equality. Let us see. May here and you over there. Underline it. Who founded the Satya Shodhaka Samaja? It is the Jyotirao Phule. Phule was also critical of the anti-colonial nationalism that was preached by the upper caste leaders. So Phule, he was very critical. He was very much harsh. He was feeling very bad regarding the anti-colonial nationalism that was preached only by the upper caste leaders. He wrote, "The Brahmins have hidden away the sword of their religion, which has cut the throat of the people's prosperity, and now go about posing great patriots of their country." So here the Brahmins, they had kept a hidden sword. Hidden sword means kattiyana muchittukondara, which is in the name of the religion. And what they are doing, they are cutting the throats of the people. Gantlana katrishbitara, prosperity, general prosperity na katrishbitara. And what they are showing as themselves as the great patriots of their country. They give this advice to our Shudra, Muslim and Parsi youth that unless we put away all quarreling amongst ourselves about the divisions between high and low and in our country and come together, our country will never make any progress. It will be unity to serve their purposes, then it will be mere here and you over there again. So here Jyotirao Phule is telling that we have to get all invited, right? Who are they? Shudra, Muslim and Parsi, all who are quarreling among each other, we should get united, and we must fight against the caste inequality, right? If we do not fight for the caste inequality, then definitely we will not see the progress of our country. In 1873, Phule wrote a book named Gulamgiri, meaning slavery. Some 10 years before this, the American Civil War had been fought, leading to the end of slavery in America. Phule dedicated his book to all those Americans who had fought to free slaves, thus establishing a link between the conditions of lower castes in India and the black slaves in America. So here you can see there was a racial discrimination in America where the slaves were treated very badly. And here in India, it was not racial discrimination, it was the caste discrimination which was prevailing and which had made the lot of scheduled caste people as the slaves. So he is telling that in the India there is a lower caste and higher caste problem, and in America there is a problem of the whites and the blacks. So he dedicated his book called Gulamgiri to the America. As this example shows, Phule extended his criticism of the caste system to argue against all forms of inequality. He was concerned about the plight of upper caste women, the miseries of the laborer, the humiliation of the low caste. Yes, there were, even in the upper caste, woman was not happy. She was not given the freedom, she was not given the education, and if she becomes the widow, she was ill treated by the family members. members. So he criticized about it. Upper caste women were also not leading a happy life. The miseries of the laborer were also not happy in those days. The humiliation of the low caste people, they were ill treated. They were made to realize again and again that they are born in the low caste. This movement for caste reform was continued in the 20th century by other great Dalit leaders like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the Western India and E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar in the South. So what happened in the Western India? We saw that there came up the Dalit leaders called Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar in the South. They also fought against the caste inequalities in the 20th century. Right, we can see that who could enter temples. So this was the problem, who could enter the temple. Ambedkar was born into a Mahar family. As a child he experienced what caste prejudice meant in everyday life. In school he was forced to sit outside the classroom on the ground and was not allowed to drink water from the taps that upper caste children used. So here you have heard the story of the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. I think you have seen lot of movies also. There Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he was born in the Mahar family, and what he experienced is the prejudice. Prejudice means there were lot of inequalities prevailing in the everyday life. And what were those inequalities? In the school he saw that he was made to sit outside the classroom and on the ground he was made to sit, and he was not allowed to drink water which the upper caste children were drinking. Tap water was not allowed for him to drink. After finishing school, he got a fellowship to go to the US for higher studies. So after he was very intelligent in the school, so he got what fellowship to continue his further studies in the United States of America. On his return to India in 1919, he wrote extensively about upper caste power in the contemporary society. He told that upper castes are exercising more power. They are treating them unequally in the society. Contemporary society means the society in which he was living. In 1927, Ambedkar started a temple entry movement in which his Mahar caste followers participated. So in 1927, Ambedkar started a temple entry movement because the lower caste people were not allowed to worship the gods in the temples. So he started a temple movement, and he said that Mahar caste followers should be participated. Brahman priests were outraged when the Dalits used water from the temple tank. Right, the Brahman caste people, the Brahman priests started scolding them. They outraged, they scolded them, they threw them away of the temple when they drink the temple water, when they used the water of the temple tank. Ambedkar led 3 such movements for temple entry between 1927 and 1935. His aim was to make everyone see the power of caste prejudices within the society. He wanted to show that there is lot of caste inequality in the society. For that he had started the temple entry movement in the country. The next one is the non-Brahman movement. Right, in the early 20th century, the non-Brahman movement started. The initiative came from those non-Brahman castes that had acquired access to education, wealth and influence. Now the non-Brahman caste people, they were all educated because of the British government. Now they were having the wealth also, and they were having the influence also. They argued that Brahmans were heirs of Aryan invaders from the north who had conquered the southern lands from the original inhabitants of the region, the indigenous Dravidian races. They also challenged Brahmanical claims to power. So here the non-Brahman movement started, and they said that these Brahmans are not originally from the Indians. Their originality is not from India. It is from where it is, the originality is from the invaders who had invaded the India. They are the conquerors. From where? From the southern land, from the northern land, and they had conquered the southern lands. The original inhabitants of the region, the indigenous Dravidian races, means the black people, or we can say the Dravidian race is the originality of the India. The white race or the Aryans are not the Indians. They are originally, they are from the northern side. They are the invaders who had conquered our lands and declared themselves as the superior races. They also challenged Brahmanical claims to power. They also told that you should not be given power to rule the India. E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, or Periyar as he was called, came from the middle class family. Interestingly, he had been an ascetic in his early life and had studied Sanskrit scriptures carefully. So what he did, he was E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar or Periyar. He is from the middle class family. What he is from the, he has studied the Sanskrit scriptures in his earlier life. During his childhood days, he had learnt the Sanskrit. Later, he became the member of the Congress, only to leave it in disgust when he found that at a feast organized by nationalists, seating arrangements followed caste distinctions. So in those days, what had happened, there was one organizational meeting which was organized by whom? By the nationalists. And there what he saw is there was a seating arrangements, and that seating arrangements was not the same, was not the equal. It followed what? Caste distinctions were there. Means they had done caste inequalities. That is, the lower caste were made to sit at a distance from the upper caste. Here we are talking about the national movement, our freedom movement, our so-called great leaders. What they did, they followed the casteism, where they made the lower caste people to sit some part aside from the higher caste people. Right, convinced that untouchables had to fight for their dignity, Periyar founded the self-respect movement. Here they had convinced them that they have to fight with these upper caste people for their dignity and freedom. And what they are doing here, they are only practicing these things. So what Periyar started, Periyar founded the self-respect movement. He argued that untouchables were the true upholders of an original Tamil and Dravidian culture which had been subjugated by the Brahmins. Here he is telling that the untouchables are the real owners of the, or the real Tamilians, and they are the owners of what? Dravidian culture, which had been taken over by whom? By the Brahmanas, because they are not the Indians. They had come from the northern side, and they had invaded the what? Invaded the southern part of the India. He felt that all religious authorities saw social divisions and inequality as God given. He felt that all religious authorities, they themselves declared that socially there is a division and there is inequality between, as God has given it. God has done this inequality. We human beings have not done the inequality, but who has done this inequality? This is the God who has done the inequality. It is said by whom? By the Aryans. Untouchables had to free themselves therefore from all religions in order to achieve social equality. See here, now for the untouchables, they have to free themselves from whom? From all the religions. They have to free themselves from all the religions, and they have to achieve what? Social equality. ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಸಮಾನತೆಯನ್ನು ಇವರು ಏನಾಗಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು ರೀ? ಅಳವಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಸಮಾನತೆಯನ್ನು ಇವರು ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊಂದಿಕೊಳ್ಳಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಇವರಿಗೆ ಸಿಗಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಬಟ್ ಆರ್ಯನ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಬಂದರು? ನಾವು ನಿಮಗೆ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಜನರನ್ನು ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಪ್ಪರ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಲೋವರ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ, ಇದನ್ನು ದೇವರ ಮಾಡಿ ಕಳಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಾನ ಅಂಥೇಳಿ ಇವರು ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ರು. ನಗುವಂಥದ್ದು ವಿಷಯ. ಮಂಗನಿಂದ ಮಾನವ ನೋಡಿವ್ರಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮೊದಲೇನಿದ್ವಿ ಮಂಗನೇ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಅವಾಗ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರು ಯಾರು ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ರೆಡ್ಡಿಯಾರು ಯಾರು ಲಿಂಗಾಯತರು ಯಾರು ಏನೂ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಏನಿದ್ರಿ ಮಂಗ್ಯಗಳು ಇದ್ವಿ. ಮಂಗ್ಯನಿಂದ ನಾವು ಮಾನವ ಆಗೀವಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇವ್ರೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆರ್ಯನ ಸಮಾಜವನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಟಿದವ್ರು ಯಾರೇ ದೇವರು, ದೇವ್ರನ್ನ ಹಂಗೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಾನ, ನಾವೇನೂ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಲೈಕ್ ದಿಸ್ ಆಲ್ ದೀಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣ community, and untouchable says that we have to free ourselves from all these things in order to achieve what? Social equality. Periyar was an outspoken critic of Hindu scriptures, especially the codes of Manu, the ancient lawgiver, and Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana. So this Periyar has read all the Hindu scriptures, all the Hindu books he has read, the codes of the Manu, the ancient lawgiver, and the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana he had studied. He said that these texts had been used to establish the authority of Brahmanas over the lower caste and the domination of men over women. So here he is telling that all these books are written in order to encourage what? Inequality between the men and women, and also encourage the casteism in India. These assertions did not go unchallenged. The forceful speeches, writings, and movements of lower caste leaders did lead to rethinking and some self-criticism among upper caste nationalist leaders. So what happened? Some of the upper caste nationalist leaders also felt that what they are saying is correct. They supported them, right? Some self, right? But Orthodox Hindu society also reacted by founding Sanatana Dharma Sabhas. So Orthodox Hindu society, which were firmly believing on the Hindu principles, they started one sabha, that is the Sanatana Dharma Sabhas and the Bharata Dharma Brahmana Sabha in Bengal. So they also founded one of the associations or the group, that is the Bharata Dharma Brahmana Mahamandala, Bharata Dharma Mahamandala and Brahmana Sabha in the Bengal. The object of these associations was to uphold caste distinctions as a cornerstone of Hinduism and show how this was sanctified by the scriptures. Debates and struggles over caste continued beyond the colonial period and are still going in our times. Yes, this caste inequality, it is a big debating issue which is still going on in India. Still we have not found any solutions for these questions, but in now at present times there is a equality between each and every person, between men and women, and between all the caste, religions, regions. We are seeing there is a equality, right? Organizing for reform, the Brahmo Samaja. The Brahmo Samaja, formed in 1830, prohibited all the forms of idolatry and sacrifice believed in the Upanishads and forbade its members from criticizing other religious practices. So the Brahmo Samaja, it was formed in the year 1830. It prohibited all the idolatry, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೂರ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಸ್ಯಾಕ್ರಿಫೈಸ್ ಬಲಿ ಕೊಡೋದನ್ನ ಇದು ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತು. and believed in what? In the Upanishads it was believing, and forbade its members from criticizing other religious practices. So it told its members that you are not allowed to criticize other religious practices. It critically drew upon the ideals of the religions, especially of Hinduism and Christianity, looking at their negative and positive dimensions. So it is told that we have to see the ideals which are there of the religions. It may be Hinduism or Christianity. Let us not talk about their positive and negative things. Only we will concentrate only in the positive dimensions which are there in these religions. Next one, Derozio and Young Bengal. Henry Louis Vivian Derozio, a teacher at Hindu College, Calcutta in the 1920s, promoted radical ideas and encouraged his pupils to question all authority. So who was this Derozio? He was a teacher. Teacher where? At Hindu College, Calcutta. He was a teacher in the Hindu College, Calcutta, right? And his ideas, radical ideas, encouraged the peoples to question against the authority. He told, referred to as the Young Bengal movement. He told it as the Young Bengal movement. His students attacked tradition and custom, demanded education for women, and campaigned for the freedom of thought and expression. Here people started questioning, students started questioning the elders of the society. Whatever you do in the name of the religion and customs, are they true? How? In what way they are true? In what way they are correct? They demanded for the women education also, and campaigned for what? For the freedom of thought and expression. Whatever they want to express in the society, they are free to do it. So they demanded for the freedom of thought and expression. The Ramakrishna Mission and Swami Vivekananda. Named after Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Swami Vivekananda's guru, the Ramakrishna Mission stressed the ideal of salvation through social service and selfless action. Here it is stressing, the Ramakrishna Mission is stressing what? Ideal of salvation. Self-satisfaction should be there through what? By doing the social service and selfless action, right? For by helping the poor people, by helping the others, what will happen? We will get the ideas of the salvation. Swami Vivekananda, 1863-1902, whose original name was Narendranath Datta, combined the simple teachings of Sri Ramakrishna with his well-founded modern outlook, and spread them all over the world. So he had a modern outlook of the Hinduism, and he had spread it all over the world. After hearing him in the World Parliament of Religions at Chicago in 1893, the New York Herald reported, "We feel how foolish it is so send missionaries to this learned nation." So the English people started feeling that how foolish we all are. This is so learned nation, and there we are sending what? Missionaries to teach the Indians education. Indeed, Swami Vivekananda was the first Indian in modern times who re-established the spiritual preeminence of the Vedanta philosophy on a global scale. So he had told about the Vedanta philosophy on a global scale, means on the outside the country. There were so many countries participating, religious gurus were participating in that parliament. It was a world parliament which was held at Chicago in the year 1893. There he represented India. But his mission was not so simply to talk about religion. He was extremely pained at the poverty and misery of his countrymen. He firmly believed that any reform could become successful only by uplifting the condition of the masses. Here he is stressing on the poverty of the people. Our country people were very poor, so unless and until upliftment of those poor people will not happen, there will be no progress in the society. He firmly believed that any reform could become successful only by up narrow confines of the religion of the kitchen, and come together in the service of the nation. By sending out this call, he made a single contribution to the nascent nationalism of India. He said that the religion of the kitchen should be stopped, right? Instead of making the people believing in religion and all, we should make them nationalism. We should put nationalism in the minds of the young children of the India. Instead of religion and all, putting the religious things in their mind, it's better to put nationalism in their mind. His sense of nationalism was, however, not narrow in its conception. He was convinced that many of the problems facing the mankind could only be overcome if the nations of the world come together on an equal footing. Therefore, his exhortation to the youth was to unite on the basis of a common spiritual heritage. Here he is telling that what the people are facing, it is related to the mankind, humanity, that should be there in the nation. People should help the other people, other person who is in the problem, who is in the sufferings, who is in the sorrow. That person we have to help. We should not differentiate among ourselves on the basis of the religion, because this religion, it is an evil to the society. Instead of that, religionalism, what we should develop? We should develop the nationalism among the youths. In this exhortation, he became truly the symbol of a new spirit and source of strength for the future. So here what happened? The people thought that he is a source of strength for the future. Right. Next one is the Pratna Samaja, established in 1867 at Bombay. The Pratna Samaja sought to remove caste restrictions, abolish child marriage, encourage the education of women, and end the ban on widow remarriage. Its religious meeting drew upon Hindu, Buddhist and Christian texts. So here in the Pratna Samaja, it was founded in 1867. Here it was made to remove caste restrictions and also abolish what? Child marriage, encourage the education of the woman and ban on the widow remarriage. Widow remarriage should be encouraged, it should not be banned. And religious meeting should be drew upon Hindu, Buddhist as well as the Christian text. Next came the Veda Samaja, established in Madras, Chennai in 1864. The Veda Samaja was inspired by the Brahmo Samaja. It worked to abolish caste distinctions and promote widow remarriage, women's education. Its members believed in one God. They condemned the superstitions and rituals of the Orthodox Hinduism. So the Veda Samaja, it was established in Madras, Chennai in 1864. The Veda Samaja was inspired by whom? By the Brahmo Samaja, which was founded by whom? Rajaram Mohan Roy. So what they started the caste restrictions, distinctions what were there, that they wanted to abolish it, and they wanted to promote what? Widow remarriage, women's education, and made its members to believe in one God. They condemned the superstitions and rituals of the Orthodox community. They said that there is only one God and people must follow and believe in one God system, worshipping one God system. And next you can see the Aligarh movement. The Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, founded by Syed Ahmad Khan in 1875 at Aligarh, later became the Aligarh Muslim University. The institution offered modern education including Western science to Muslims. The Aligarh movement, as it was known, had an enormous impact in the area of the educational reform. So Aligarh movement was started by whom? By the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. He started the Anglo-Oriental College, which was founded by whom? Syed Ahmad Khan in 1875 at Aligarh. He also started the Aligarh Muslim University also in order to offer modern education including Western science to Muslims. Next one, the Singh Sabha movement, the reform organization of the Sikhs. The first Singh Sabhas was formed at Amritsar in 1873 and at Lahore in 1879. The Sabhas sought to rid Sikhism of superstitions, caste distinctions and practices seen by them as the non-Sikh. They promoted education among the Sikhs, often combining modern instruction with the Sikh teachings. The Singh Sabha movement was started in Amritsar in the 1873 and at Lahore in 1879. So the Sabhas sought to rid what? Sikhism of superstitions, caste distinctions and practices which were there among the Sikhs. They had told that to remove it from the Sikh caste. They promoted the education among the Sikhs. They told that for the Sikhs the education is important and combining what? Modern instructions with the Sikh teaching. Black slaves and white panthers. Right, this is one case study. I leave it you for the things. Study this case study as the homework. Okay children, thank you. This is the end of the chapter. Thank you all. Children, homework is you have to write, let's recall, let's discuss, you have to write it down. Okay, write it down as a homework. Don't forget it to write the question and answers and come to the schools and get it corrected. Right children, whatever, if you have any doubts regarding these chapters, you can call me and you can ask. Otherwise you can come to the schools and clarify your doubts. Okay children, thank you.